Ranch or Cool Ranch? There is an episode of Handy Manny that involves demonic possession and the occult. The show is about a Hispanic-American handyman who spent his days repairing things in the fictional town of Sheetrock Hills, a place that isn't found on any American map. Manny was hiding something, and there's one tape that never aired because Playhouse Disney considered the themes too mature for a traditional Halloween episode. In fact, this episode is too dark even for normal daytime adult programming, and only aired once before the studio was broadcast and was shut down, and the archival tapes mysteriously burnt to ashes. Oh, I only know about the tape because an heir to the Walt Disney estate accidentally gave it to me and left 50 angry voicemails demanding that I return it. Oh, at first I returned it, but now I refuse to return it. In fact, I'm considering suing the Disney estate for assaulting me with such a disturbing and downright uncomfortable barrage of images involving a Hispanic handyman and his insatiable need to have tools inside of him. I own all 113 episodes of the Handy Manny. As someone who knows many Hispanic people, I like to put it on to entertain company while we prepare Hispanic cuisines such as paella, tacos, huevos rancheros, an egg dish created by Mexican ranchers. I invited my friend Carlos over and put the tape in. Carlos is 35, I'm 37, but we both watch Handy Manny religiously because the handwriting rating transcends normal cultural barriers such as age, race, sexual orientation, wonderkin, twin spirit, and desire to be fed nachos. This was disturbing. Handy Manny looked pissed off. He was fuming with rage. His eyebrows were bent downward. He was leering at a woman in her own home. The woman started undressing, and Manny winked at the camera, his eyebrows still turned downward with evil Hispanic flair. You hear the voice actor snickering to himself before the woman screams and runs away. Manny quickly picks up tools and pretends to be building a fence, except the fence serves no purpose and is a single plank board sitting in the middle of an empty green field that he starts inserting random nails into. Looks like Manny's not so handy after all, a voice whispered. Oh, it was Manny. He was talking to himself. Who doesn't? Then he puts a wig on and mumbles about how an illegal Spanish immigrant is watching women undress. He begins flinging cans of Goya brand black beans with great fervor, slamming and breaking cans. What the hell was going on with Handy Manny? Carlos laughed and shook his head, declared this was a great episode. Manny picks up a hammer and begins slamming it into his thumb. You see some blood as the nail falls off, revealing a pool of pus underneath. No, eso sí, he screams erotically. Dame los tacos. He starts driving a nail into the wound, screaming with pleasure, his eyes leering as someone approaches his hardware store. Oh, something was happening to Manny, something I didn't like. Carlos chuckled and said this was better than any episode he'd ever seen. He starts building a desk for Mr. Buffon, a rich, upper-class white male who exploits Handy Manny, an illegal immigrant, for cheap labor. Picking in the orange field. Mr. Buffon leered uncomfortably and covered his nose. This screwdriver, he says. This screwdriver smells like it was in your ass. I screamed. Carlos chuckled. He laughed loudly and just kept laughing. Manny bent over and shoved the screwdriver into his ass, and I shut the tape off. Well, I called Disney, leaving several angry voicemails, demanding to know why Manny was shoving a screwdriver in his ass. After receiving no response, I invited Carlos over for a Mexican luncheon of room-temperature sangria and Cinco de Mayo-themed pretzels that were really just discarded pieces of a sombrero I found outside of Party City. I swear to God, if Manny puts that screwdriver in his ass one more time. Carlos had already prepared the VHS tape player. He was holding the tape in his left hand. I put the tape back in and Turner, the screwdriver, screamed. The screwdriver was backed into the corner, eyes bulging. It is revealed that Handy Manny possesses humans and turns them into tools to do his bidding. That was when a police officer entered the hardware store and wanted to ask Handy Manny a few questions, quote unquote. He had used a metal saw to slice off the skin of his left arm and was eating it. And even offered the officer some.
Haven't seen any Spanish immigrants around here, Officer Cocksucker.
The cop begins taking notes on a notepad. Then the cop spoke, though at a low, muffled tone.
Someone's been using ancient Hispanic witchcraft to steal the souls of people, turn them into tools, and shove the tools in his asshole. We just want to get to the bottom of this.
Handy Manny leered.
Is that illegal, officer?
Then Manny wrote the words, evidence, on a piece of paper, dropped it on the floor, and screamed. Oh no, officer, look! The cop bent over to examine the piece of paper, and Manny quickly shoved a screwdriver in the officer's ass. There was a loud, uncomfortable screaming noise. It sounded like a real cop squealing as the tape clipped like a real pig. I heard the sound of a gunshot and a man screaming about a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme. Carlos began to cry and applauded, spilling tears into the refried bean dip, soiling the Mexican dish rags, sobbing uncontrollably, stating that it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I got into an argument with Carlos then, demanding to know why he enjoyed that godforsaken episode. He said it spoke to him in ways his Hispanic heart had never imagined, that there was true poetry in motion when the screwdriver entered the officer's ass. I had had enough. Carlos informed me that it was the great Los Muertos, and on the third blood moon of every Saturday, each bicentennial quarter of a century, death would appear over the bed of each young Hispanic firstborn child, and murder him in his sleep using common household variety gardening tools, such as rakes and dirt mowers. That was why the immigrants were fleeing Mexico. They were fleeing Los Muertos' death curse, poisoned omelets and bad dreams made from refried beans. I looked at my sangria. Tasted like bug spray. Had Carlos poisoned me? I started to feel a little woozy as he ejected the Handy Manny VHS tape and put it in an evidence bag made of Doritos, and Carlos floated up into the ceiling, never to be seen again. I woke up in a shallow pool with a bag of cement tied to my leg. Looks like Carlos had attempted to give me cement shoes to silence me so he could have the Handy Manny VHS tape all to himself. Next to me, a plastic bag with a screwdriver in it and a sinister smiley face drawn in Sharpie on the front. And a Handy Manny action figure that looked like it had been chewed by many dogs, with a plastic wheelbarrow that contained the address to an unmarked lot on Lake Buena Vista Drive, just a few miles from where old Walt Disney's office was. I took the screwdriver and the address, took a 6-hour Greyhound bus to the location. It was raining hard that evening. The lot was dark and sordid. I told the Hispanic security guard that I had some affairs to clean up with Handy Manny, and I showed him the plastic wheelbarrow. He just looked at me like I was insane. Then he smiled and said, the only difference between homicide and suicide is who is holding the gun. What the hell did that mean? He winked, put a hard hat on, and drove the kiosk, an extending security barrier away, as evidently it was on wheels. How did my life end up here? How did I get to this point? Here I am, watching a show for children, holding a screwdriver. I wanted warm refried beans, but I didn't want to get scalded. I went up to Suite 303 and entered the executive's office, clutching the screwdriver. Behind the desk sat a man in a Mickey Mouse costume. So glad you could make it. It really sounded like the real Mickey Mouse. His title, M. Mouse. And there were various fake plastic blueprints and pictures of Hispanic food items on the walls.
I was drugged and poisoned,
I said angrily, demanding to know about the Handy Manny VHS tape. What'd he do with that screwdriver? Admittedly, I was fuming with anger.
Handy Manny watches women undress? What of Carlos?
I stammered angrily, drawing ever closer, getting angrier and angrier.
What of Carlos?
I screamed, demanding to know how my Hispanic friend vanished, and this turn of events twisted my world into a catastrophe, like a Hispanic bean cart crashing when the donkey trips on a pebble. But in this case, the pebble was this VHS tape, and the donkey was my hopes and dreams. I realized I was still holding the screwdriver, squeezing it harder and angrier as time went on. You seem upset. The man in the Mickey Mouse costume got up, not smiling, because costumes cannot smile. They can feel a deep sense of sadness, but they can't smile. But he was smiling under the costume. I just knew it. Let this be a catalyst to fulfill your destiny. Mickey Mouse turned around.
Your destiny?
He bent over, and I can't believe I did it, but in a fit of rage, I was still holding the screwdriver, tightened, with my fist balled up angrily. I shoved the screwdriver in Mickey Mouse's ass. There was both a bright flash and a shrill scream that sounded both painful and pleasurable. The costume tore open, and I was hit on the head with a Bam Bam-style club from shows such as The Flintstones and The Flintstones. With a thud, I fell on the ground at once, and 7 midgets dressed like the 7 dwarves from Snow White folklore detained me and started standing on my back. I can't breathe, dwarves! I huffed as Grumpy tightened his vice-like grip on my neck. They shoved me into a black coffin, and I came out on the other side of the It's a Small World ride with 2 sprained ankles and a bloody nose. I went home, deciding to put this whole ordeal behind me. I soon got the suspicion that I was being blackmailed, so I kept receiving promotional advertisements to visit Disneyland, even though I'm 37 and Carlos is probably dead. Curiosity got the best of me. I saw my neighbors opening them up. In fact, they were all over town. On car windows and mailboxes, thousands of the same flyer. I hesitantly opened it up, and my jaw dropped at what I saw. It was an advertisement, but not for any kind of park. Come and visit the most magical place on earth. It said in a bright Disney-themed font. Official Disney letterhead, in fact. Except instead of a picture of Disney World, there was a picture of me. A picture of me shoving a screwdriver in Mickey Mouse's ass.